The knock didn't sound like a knock. It was softer than that, like someone changing their mind halfway through. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, laptop still open, coffee gone cold on the desk because I'd forgotten it existed. The afternoon light came in slanted, turning dust into something slow and golden. I remember thinking the room felt too quiet, like it was waiting for a mistake. Then the door opened. She didn't ask if she could come in. She never really did. She just stood there for a second, one hand on the doorframe, the other holding my hoodie. My hoodie, the gray one I wore when I didn't know what else to do with myself. "You left something," she said. Her voice was calm, almost casual, but she didn't toss it onto the bed. She didn't smile. She just held it, fingers curled into the fabric like it weighed more than it should. "Or maybe you meant to," she added, quieter. I sat up too fast. The chair scraped the floor, loud and awkward. She noticed. She always noticed things like that. The way my hands went useless at my sides. The way I suddenly didn't know where to look. I didn't realize," I said, which wasn't exactly a lie. I just hadn't realized I'd left it there on purpose. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. Not all the way, just enough that the hallway disappeared. The room felt smaller instantly, like it had leaned in to listen. She was wearing one of those soft cardigans that looked like it belonged to a quieter life. Hair pulled back, a few strands already loose near her face. She looked tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The other kind. "You've been working a lot," she said, glancing at the laptop. "I heard you pacing last night." "I pace when I think," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "You pace when you avoid thinking." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I reached for the hoodie, then stopped halfway. Our fingers brushed. Not accidentally. Not entirely on purpose, either. She didn't pull back right away. Neither did I. There it was. That pause. The one that always stretched too long between us. She was in her mid-40s. I knew that. Everyone did. She carried it differently than numbers suggested. Like experience had taught her how to stand still without disappearing. I was 26 and still figuring out how not to fill silence with noise. "You could keep it," she said, finally letting go. "It smells like your detergent anyway." "It smells like your house," I said before I could stop myself. Her mouth pressed into a line. Not a smile. Something more careful. "This isn't my house," she said. I didn't answer. We both knew what she meant. Temporary places had a way of pretending they weren't. She moved toward the window, looking out at nothing in particular. Her arms folded, then unfolded. A habit. I'd seen it 100 times. Usually right before she said something she wasn't supposed to say. "People will talk," she said instead. "They already do," I replied. Too quickly. She turned then, really looked at me. Her eyes didn't accuse. They searched, like she was checking for damage she might have caused and wasn't sure she wanted to find. "You're young," she said, "and you're not fragile," I said back. Silence again, thicker this time, the kind that presses against your ears. She walked closer, stopped just short of where it would have been obvious. I could see the fine lines near her eyes, the way her hand trembled slightly before she tucked it into her sleeve. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. I nodded. "I know." Neither of us moved. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Her breath caught, just barely, and when she looked back up at me, something had shifted. "Someone's at the door," she said. She didn't step away. She didn't step closer either. She just stood there, waiting. The knock downstairs came again, louder this time. Insistent. Whoever it was wasn't changing their mind. She didn't move right away. Neither did I. It felt like if either of us did, something would snap back in a place that had been slowly bending for months. "I'll get it," she said, but her voice lacked momentum. Like she was saying it because that's what people say when they're supposed to leave a room. She took one step, then stopped. "Look back at me." "This," she gestured vaguely between us. "This has been happening longer than we admit." I swallowed. "You mean the silence?" A breath escaped her nose. Almost a laugh. I mean the way you notice when I skip dinner. The way you wait up when my car's late. The way I... She cut herself off and shook her head. Never mind, but was already out there. She went downstairs. I stayed where I was, hoodie clenched in my hands, heart doing something uneven. I could hear muffled voices through the floorboards. A man's voice. Familiar. My chest tightened before I even knew why. Her husband. They'd separated a year ago, technically. That's what she told people. Different floors. Different schedules. Same house, because life was complicated and selling felt like admitting failure out loud. He still came by sometimes. To pick up mail. To argue about bills. To remind her of promises that didn't age well. I wasn't supposed to be here when he was. When she came back upstairs, her shoulders were set in that careful way, like she'd put armor on too late. She closed the door fully this time. He's taking the rest of his things this weekend, she said. He just wanted to make sure I hadn't forgotten. Forgotten him? I asked. She looked at me, then really looked, and something raw flickered across her face. Forgotten who I was when I married him. I didn't know what to say to that. I'd never been married. My longest relationship had lasted 2 years and ended because we wanted different cities, different futures, different versions of ourselves. Clean breaks. No shared furniture. No history that echoed in hallways. I was married at 24, she continued, sitting on the edge of the bed like the weight of standing had finally caught up to her. I thought love was something you chose once and then defended forever. And now, I asked. Now I know love is quieter, she said. It waits. It watches. Sometimes it shows up when it shouldn't. I sat beside her, careful to leave space. The mattress dipped anyway, betraying us. You shouldn't look at me the way you do, she said, staring at the floor. I don't know how not to, I replied. That earned a glance. Brief. Heavy. You're too young to be tangled up in my mess, she said. Maybe, I said, but I'm old enough to know when something matters. She reached out then, not to my face, not dramatic, just to my wrist, fingers wrapping gently like she was checking a pulse. Her hand was warm, steady finally. She didn't let go, and neither did I. Her phone buzzed again before either of us could say something we wouldn't be able to take back. She flinched this time. Her hand slipped from my wrist like it had burned her. I should go, she said, already standing. Too fast. Like if she stayed seated, she might forget why she wasn't supposed to. You say that every time, I replied. Not accusing, just tired. She grabbed her phone, glanced at the screen, then turned it face down on the desk. A small, deliberate act. It felt louder than a confession. This is getting complicated, she said. It's been complicated, I said. We just stopped pretending it wasn't. A knock sounded again. Not downstairs. Here, right outside my room. We both froze. Hey, my roommate called through the door. You got a sec? Her eyes widened. Panic flashed across her face. Sharp, unguarded. She stepped back, scanning the room like she might suddenly become invisible if she stood in the right corner. I didn't know he was home, she whispered. He's always home, I muttered. I cleared my throat. Yeah, 1 minute. Silence. Too much of it. She moved closer to me, lowering her voice. This is exactly why we can't, I know, I said. But that doesn't make it stop. The doorknob rattled. Once. Twice. Dude, my roommate said. You okay? I glanced at her. She nodded, go answer, but her hand caught the edge of my sleeve. Not to stop me, just to stay connected for half a second longer. I opened the door just enough to block the view. Yeah, I said. What's up? He looked past me, suspicious. Thought I heard voices. Podcast, I said quickly. True crime. Of course it is, he said, unimpressed. Anyway, your mom called earlier. Left a voicemail. My stomach dropped. She did. Yeah. Sounded concerned. I nodded, forcing a smile. Thanks. When I closed the door again, the room felt altered. Like we'd been seen, even if we hadn't. She's worried about you, the woman said softly. She always is. You know her well enough to say that, I replied. She winced. That's another problem. I stepped closer before I could talk myself out of it. The space between us shrank to something fragile. Tell me to stop, I said, and I will. She looked up at me, eyes dark, searching. Her lips parted like she might speak. Instead, she reached up and smoothed a wrinkle on my shirt. An excuse. A delay. I can't, she whispered. My heart thudded so loud I was sure she could hear it. I leaned in, not all the way, just enough that the air shifted. Her breath caught. Our foreheads nearly touched. For one suspended moment, nothing else existed. No age, no past, no consequences. Then she pulled back. I'm still married, she said like a warning, like a plea. And you're still here, I replied. Her eyes closed briefly. When they opened, there was something dangerous there. Don't make me choose, she said. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She already knew I had. The voicemail sat unopened on my phone all night. I knew what it would sound like. My mom's careful concern, the pauses where she waited for me to reassure her that my life made sense. I didn't listen because if I did, I'd have to explain things even I didn't fully understand. By morning, the house felt different. Quieter, like it was holding its breath. She avoided me at first, passed by the kitchen doorway without looking in, answered a call outside instead of on the couch like she usually did. I told myself it was good, necessary. Space was what adults chose when they wanted to do the right thing. It didn't stop me from watching her reflection in the microwave door while I reheated coffee I didn't drink. Around noon, a car pulled into the driveway. I recognized it immediately. My chest tightened before logic could catch up. Him. She froze mid-step, one hand on the counter, knuckles whitening. She hadn't been expecting him. Not today. I'll talk to him, she said too quickly. It won't take long. About what? I asked. She hesitated. That was answer enough. They stood in the driveway longer than necessary. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. His hands cutting the air. Her arms crossed, then uncrossed. The way she nodded like she was trying to keep peace instead of tell the truth. Something sharp rose in my chest. Jealousy, maybe, or fear, or the realization that no matter how close she stood to me, there was a whole life she'd lived before I ever existed. When she came back inside, her eyes were glossy but dry. Controlled. You want to try again, she said. The room tilted. You didn't say no, I replied. I didn't say yes either. But you didn't say no. She sighed, pressing her fingers to her temple. He's scared. He thinks this, she gestured vaguely, is a phase. And what do you think? I asked. She looked at me then. Really looked, like she was weighing something fragile and expensive. I think I'm tired of pretending I don't feel things, she said. That did it. Whatever restraint I've been clinging to snapped. I'm not a distraction, I said. I'm not something you'll explain away later because it's easier. I know, she said softly. That's the problem. I stepped closer. Too close now. There was no pretending this was accidental. Say it, I said. Say you don't want this. She opened her mouth, closed it. Her hand lifted, then hovered in the air between us, unsure. When it landed on my chest, it stayed there, palm flat, like she was grounding herself. You don't understand what this costs, she whispered. Then tell me, I said. Don't protect me from a choice I'm already making. Her fingers curled into my shirt, just slightly. I'm afraid, she admitted. Afraid I'll ruin you. Afraid I'll ruin myself. Afraid that if I don't stop now, I won't be able to. My voice came out lower than I intended. And if you do stop, her eyes flicked to my mouth. Back to my eyes. I'll think about you every time a room gets quiet, she said. Every time someone almost understands me. The space between us vanished. I could feel her breath. See the small scar near her eyebrow, she'd once told me a story about and never finished. I leaned in. She didn't move away. Her eyes closed. And then the front door creaked open. The door didn't just creak open. It slammed. We jumped apart like we'd been caught stealing something that had our names written on it. My roommate stood there, eyes wide, backpack half slid off one shoulder. He looked from me to her, then back again, like his brain was trying to rearrange a picture that didn't make sense. "Oh," he said. "Just that. One syllable. Heavy." She stepped back immediately, distance snapping into place like muscle memory. Her hand dropped from my chest as if it had never been there. She started, then stopped. Her throat worked. "I was just looking for the laundry room," he offered flat. Silence filled the space she didn't. "I'll go," she said finally. Calm. Too calm. She grabbed her keys from the counter, didn't look at either of us, and walked past him like this was any other afternoon. The door closed behind her. My roommate stared at me. "Dude, I know," I said. "That's not. I mean, He ran a hand through his hair. "Isn't she married?" "Separated," I said. Defensive. Automatic. He laughed once, sharp. "Man, that's not better." I didn't answer. There wasn't one. He shook his head. "Just be careful. This kind of thing blows up." When he left, the house felt hollowed out, like whatever warmth had been there had followed her out the door. I stood in my room for a long time after, hoodie still in my hands, her warmth already fading from the fabric. I finally listened to my mom's voicemail because the silence needed filling. She sounded worried. She always did. Asked if I was okay. Said she trusted me. That was somehow worse. My phone buzzed before I could call her back. A text from her. "I'm sorry you had to be seen like that." I stared at it, chest tight. "Like what?" I typed. Deleted it. Typed again. "Do you regret it?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "I regret that it's complicated," she wrote. "Not that it's you." That should have helped. It didn't. An hour later, another message came through. Shorter. Colder. "He's staying tonight. We need space." The words sat there, unmoving, like a verdict. I didn't reply right away. I paced. "You said." I stood again. Thought about all the times she'd warned me without actually stopping. About the way she'd said, "Don't make me choose," like the choice had already been eating at her. When I finally answered, my hands were steady. "Okay," I wrote, "but I'm not disappearing." No response. Night fell early. Rain started without drama, just a quiet tapping against the windows. I lay on my bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the almost kiss like it had actually happened. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. A voicemail this time. Her voice was softer than I expected. Unsteady. "He's asleep," she said. I tried to imagine waking up next to him tomorrow and pretending today didn't exist. A pause. A breath. I couldn't. Another pause. Longer. "I don't know what this means yet," she whispered, "but I know I don't want to lose you." The message ended. I sat up slowly, heart pounding, rain louder now. Outside, a car door closed. The rain hadn't stopped since midnight. It softened everything, the streetlights, the edges of the houses, the noise in my head. I was still awake when a knock came. Not loud. Not urgent. Familiar. I didn't rush it this time. I stood there for a second, hand on the door, afraid that if I opened it too fast, I'd scare the moment away. When I did, she was standing on the porch without an umbrella, hair damp, cardigan darkened by rain. She looked smaller somehow. Not weak, just stripped down what was real. "I couldn't stay," she said. That was it. No explanation. No apology. I stepped aside. She walked in like she already knew the path. We didn't touch at first. She stood in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself, eyes roaming like the space had changed while she was gone. "He asked me to promise things," she said, "to go back to who I was before I learned how lonely I'd been." I leaned against the counter. My voice came out steady, even though nothing inside me was. "Did you?" She shook her head. Once. Sharp. Final. I told him I couldn't keep choosing silence just because it was familiar. Her laugh broke halfway through. He said I was throwing everything away. And I asked. She looked at me then. Really looked. No caution left. I told him I was finally choosing something. The room felt charged, like the air before a storm hits ground. I'm scared, she said. Not of you. Of how much I don't want to pretend anymore. I crossed the space between us slowly, giving her time to step back. She didn't. I can't promise you this will be easy, she went on. I come with history. With consequences. People will judge. Some already have. I know, I said. I'm not asking for easy. Her breath trembled. You should be with someone uncomplicated. I smiled faintly. You think I don't know exactly what I'm choosing? She reached for me then, not my face. My hands. Laced her fingers through mine like she needed to feel something solid. I don't want to be your regret, she whispered. You won't be, I said, even if this scares me for the rest of my life. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was relief there, and grief, and something brave. Then don't let me run, she said. I didn't answer. I pulled her into me. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't rushed. It felt like the first honest thing either of us had done in a long time. Her forehead rested against my chest. My arms held her like they'd been waiting for permission. After a while, she tilted her head up. This changes everything, she said. I know. Tomorrow will be messy. I know. She studied my face one last time, like she was memorizing it for later. Then she kissed me. Soft. Certain. No hesitation left. When we finally pulled apart, the rain was still falling. The world hadn't rearranged itself. Nothing was magically solved. But she stayed. And this time, neither of us pretended it was an accident. Morning came slowly, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. The rain had thinned to a mist, clinging to the windows and the quiet streets outside. She was still asleep when I woke up, curled slightly toward me on the couch, one hand resting on my arm as if she needed proof that the night hadn't been a dream. Her hair was tangled, her face unguarded in a way I hadn't seen before. No careful expressions, no half-decisions, just her. I didn't move right away. I listened to the house settling, the distant sound of a car passing, the rhythm of her breathing. For the first time since she'd walked into my room with my hoodie in her hands, the waiting inside me eased. When she stirred, she didn't pull away. Morning, she said quietly. Morning, I replied. She sat up slowly, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. I could see the weight returning, not fear exactly, but awareness. Reality finding its way back in. I have to go talk to him, she said. I nodded. I know. And there will be fallout, she added. People will have opinions. I know. She searched my face. You're not backing out. No, I said. I'm not. That seemed to steady her. She exhaled, long and careful. I spent so long choosing what hurt the least, she said. Turns out that was still hurting me. She reached for my hoodie draped over the chair. Slipped it on without asking this time. It hung loose on her, sleeves too long. I'm keeping this, she said. I smiled. I figured. At the door, she hesitated. The old instinct to pause, to doubt, flickered and then passed. This doesn't mean everything will be perfect, she said. I don't want perfect, I replied. I want honest. She nodded once. Then she left. The house felt different after. Not empty. Open. Days passed. Not dramatic ones. Just real ones. Conversations that were hard. Looks that lingered too long. Moments where she almost pulled back and then didn't. We didn't rush to define anything. We learned the shape of each other in daylight. Sometimes I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. Like she was still surprised she'd allowed herself this. Sometimes I watched her walk away, knowing she always came back now. We didn't fix everything, but we stopped running from it. Weeks later, we sat on the porch as the evening cooled, her shoulder pressed against mine, comfortable, chosen. You know, she said. I used to think the scariest thing was being alone. And now? I asked. She glanced at me, a small smile forming. Now I think it's living a whole life without ever letting yourself be seen. I took her hand. She squeezed it back, and in that quiet, ordinary moment, I understood something simple and irreversible. Some love doesn't arrive loudly. It just refuses to leave.